Back once again with the ill behaviour. It's Tom and Jack from Monday. Cultaholicshop.com, by the way. If you're not sure what to get someone you love for Christmas, what about a Puppet Jack pin? What a joy. Get one of them on you. Where's yours, Jack? Where's your Puppet Jack pin?
I refuse to support Puppet Jack.
What?
He's stealing all my thunder. And you've seen him around the office acting like the big man. I hate him.
Well, show your love for Puppet Jack and your detest for Normal Jack with Cultaholicshop.com. Here is your wrestling news. WWE could be bringing back a scrapped storyline. Could a top Mexican star be about to join AEW? And wait till you hear the bizarre reason for a recent NXT title change. We'll get to it in a bit. Cast your mind back, Jack, to the wedding of Bobby Lashley and Lana. What a time in professional wrestling that was. And what a scenario we saw with Liv Morgan turning up and declaring her love not for Bobby, like we all should, but for Lana, like we all do. What did you make of all that? It feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was bad, wasn't it? Bad. I don't really know. Maybe if they'd fully committed to it and kept it going, I'd have been more forgiving, but they brought in the storyline. Liv was then just gone from the storyline after a brief partnership with Rusev, and then at WrestleMania, or around then, maybe shortly after Mania, Bobby split up with Lana, didn't he? So it all got scrapped. Tom, I'm scared to ask, but why do you bring this up?
Well, I know that whilst you weren't a fan of it, deep down you probably want a little bit of resolution. Well, Father Christmas has the gift for you this year, Jack.
Oh, good.
During an interview with Sportskeeda, Lana was asked about that storyline. And she said, quote, "I can see the story picking up anytime, any day. I think it's a very, very compelling story, and I would love to revisit it. So that's what I was told, that we're going to revisit it at some point. Merry Christmas! We're getting Lana and Liv warmed back up in time for the festive season, quite possibly."
Yeah, okay. Now, right, I don't understand what they've done. Let's focus, because Lana at the minute has got herself a storyline, hasn't she? She's with Asuka. They're going for the women's tag team titles. Liv, I don't know what they've wanted to do with her for a couple of years now. It seems like they've recognized that she's got a lot of promise. You know, Liv's got something about her. She might not be like an elite level worker like Sasha Banks, but I feel like she does the little things in matches, doesn't she? She gets her character across all the time, and I feel like she's really good at selling and like, do you remember that bump she took through a table on the outside where she's fully... Jeebus. I remember her ragdolling for Shayna Baszler back at Elimination Chamber. I think everybody did, to be fair. But yeah. I seem to remember Liv Morgan taking a shoeing in that match as well. She's very good at taking a shoeing, isn't she? I think she's got phenomenal potential as a babyface. She just seems to get it, sort of. But despite sort of recognising this, I feel like WWE don't know what they want to do with it. It seems like they'll have an idea, they'll go with it for a bit, then they won't. Now the Riot Squad are sort of a thing again, but without poor Sarah Logan, who for some reason was the one that got cast off. I don't know what they want to do with Liv, but what I will say is that anything that gets her in the spotlight, she'll make the most of, because she seems like that sort of wrestler. But at the same time, is this really the best thing? I don't know. I could be proven wrong, but I can't see it being very good.
Oh, well, you may find out sooner rather than later if they end up bringing this bad boy back. We touched on Triple Mania in the last news video, Marvel superheroes taking over. But one of the big highlights of the night, away from Hugo Savanovic getting kabonged, was the match between Laredo Kid and Kenny Omega. It was a belter. They really worked hard, didn't they, Jack?
They really did. It was a late match of the year contender, and as many people predicted, it was the match of the night. And given recent stories that have come out regarding people having good matches or big prominent moments in their career and then being offered a contract by WWE, or saying that they were offered a contract, I think Ricky Starks was one who said this happened to him. This could be happening for Laredo Kid. I believe he has been saying that he's been teasing, shall we say, joining various different promotions, most notably perhaps AEW.
Yeah, he put out on Twitter a poll asking fans where he would like to go next, and he put AEW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Ring of Honor. You won't be shocked to hear that the poll says that AEW could be the place we see Laredo Kid. He's got a ready-made feud with Kenny Omega since he was unsuccessful taking the championship at Triple Mania. This could easily be something that they bring him in to do with him. But he's no stranger to AEW anyway. He was teaming with the Lucha Brothers back at Fyter Fest last year.
Yes.
So I'm surprised we haven't seen more of him since then.
I am as well. I wonder if, had this year not been, subject to a massive pandemic, maybe we would have seen more international stars arrive. And I mean, for example, we saw regulars like Riho disappear because of travel restrictions. So maybe that's just what happened to Laredo Kid as well. Maybe they couldn't bring in as many people from outside as they would have liked to. But that's certainly one thing that I'm looking forward to more from not just AEW, but various promotions once things open up again, is more, more surprises, more people from outside coming in and getting involved.
Like Laredo Kid.
Like potentially Laredo Kid.
Speaking of Laredo Kid's opponent from Triple Mania, Kenny has been the talking point of the wrestling world. Kenny Omega turned up in his big Lex Express at Final Resolution. There was a little back and forth with Carl Anderson in the parking lot, but that's the extent to which we saw. They were teasing he'd run in during Final Resolution, but he didn't. But the story that we are telling, that we are weaving with Kenny Omega, Don Callis, AEW and Impact Wrestling, I think is excellent at the moment, Jack.
Yeah, I do as well. I think that it's like nothing we've seen for a very long time, with wrestling promotions working together to create a bit of a compelling and out-of-the-box storyline. And it doesn't seem to be over yet. It's just moving to its next stage, isn't it? Because apparently there's going to be an upcoming match announced for Kenny Omega. And I think, if I'm reading this right, this is according to Wrestling Observer Radio, I think the announcement for the match is going to be on Tuesday's Impact, or is the match itself going to be on Tuesday's Impact?
From what I can glean from it, is they are potentially going to be putting on a Kenny Omega match.
Oh,
on Impact.
Okay.
So, according to Dave, Impact will be announcing an upcoming match for Kenny Omega on Tuesday's show.
No, Dave, you haven't structured your sentence well enough there, Dave.
Surely not.
I want some commas in there, and I want to know.
I mean, this is very open-ended, and it would suggest. I mean, I quite like the meme that we're slowly building of Kenny Omega turning up on different shows saying, "Put this one on for an announcement." Going to AEW. Put Impact on for an announcement. Go to Impact. Put AAA on for an announcement. AAA on. Put EastEnders on for an announcement. Just have him turn up places and promise an announcement everywhere he goes.
Who do you think it'll be against, by the way, Tom? Sorry
a lot of people are saying Rich Swann, but I don't know whether I want to see Swann and Omega right now. I think that is something that you hold off on for a little while because Rich Swann is an obvious candidate for somebody to get in the mix with Kenny Omega as the Impact World Champion. You put your champion against your champion. He's the sort of the top name that springs out to me in terms of like sort of dream matches. I think it'd be good to see Omega get in there with someone like an Eddie Edwards. I think that'd be a fun back and forth. You've got stuff sort of ready made between Gallows and Anderson and Omega as well. How about yourself? Who would you like to see? What would you like to see from Omega in Impact?
Mine was going to be Eddie Edwards, just because I think that if he was to go back a little bit and regress back to his Ring of Honor style, because he used to be quite a Ring of Honor-y type boy before he went all Tommy Dreamer inspired hardcore kind of style. And I think if Omega could bring out the pure work rate aspect of Eddie Edwards again, I think they could have a fantastic match. But I mean, Omega can have great matches with brawlers as well, as we saw with Jon Moxley. So I feel like whoever they put him against, it's going to be someone that Omega knows he can have a great match with. And there's not many wrestlers that Omega can't have a great match with, so he's got quite a lot of options there.
A lot of options. I'm up for an AEW Impact pay-per-view showdown next year. Not yet. Let's build. Let's keep it ticking over. Let's do something big next year. Maybe we can have a few more people there to add a little bit of ambiance. Because that's the big thing, is the aesthetic of it. I talked about this on Friday. Is the aesthetic difference between AEW and Impact, whereas AEW is in like a part-filled Daily's place where you've got some noise. Impact is still very much in a closed-off soundstage, and they have been consistent despite sort of random issues thrown their way with champions not turning up and whatever. Impact have been consistently great all year long. Yeah. And they've done it in this weird circumstance of this echoey soundstage. And there is an aesthetic divide between AEW and Impact. I feel like it was great seeing Omega on Impact. I kind of would like to see the favor returned and maybe have like Rich Swann turn up on AEW with the Impact Championship.
I'd like that a lot as well.
That'd be pretty cool. But we'll see how this pans out. I think it's only good things. Staying with AEW, the man that introduced us to wildlife such as the scolded dog and the government mule, Jim Ross, back in conversation once again. I feel like every time we talk about Jim in AEW, it's never in the most glowing of light, you know, Jack?
Yeah, sometimes because he's made an honest mistake, sometimes it's more his own doing. And I think that today's story may be a little bit more his own doing, Tom.
So on the Grilling JR podcast, JR made a quote about... He made a complaint about modern day wrestling and a style of modern day wrestling that he sees, in particular those big dives to the outside that he doesn't buy into. And Brandon Cutler put out a tweet that quoted Jim Ross when Brandon Cutler was hyping the 14-man tag match that we're going to see on Wednesday night's Dynamite. Brandon Cutler said, and I quote, "We're going to go outside, cluster up like coils, stand there in a huddle, friends and foes together, side by side, to catch some leaping idiot going over the top." That's verbatim what Jim Ross said about modern wrestling. And I get it. And you can hear when those spots happen. You can hear that Jim Ross isn't even going to pretend to get on board with it, you know?
Jim Ross... would be bad at poker, or at least the modern day Jim Ross would be bad at poker. I feel like I understand him being honest. That's very admirable of him, you know, saying what he thinks about modern wrestling, even if it is the promotion that he's working for. But at the same time, you're working for that promotion. Why would you then go and slag them off on your own podcast? Exactly. It's like when Matthew's on the Cultaholic podcast. You never know who he's going to take aim at in the office, and I'm just scared. I just think, Matthew, why are you doing this? Or Matthew will say something about our news headlines or something. I'm like, Matthew, you're on the Cultaholic. You're on the Cultaholic podcast. So Jim Ross has reminded me a lot of Matthew there, actually.
When I've done commentary with Matthew before, when something's gone wrong in a match, he went through and I love it, and I love him to death. And bless him, I've had to say, don't do it, because every so often, if we watch something and there's a botch of the match, you go, oh well, he buggered that up. I said, well, don't acknowledge that happened. Don't acknowledge it. And you know what? And to be fair, like I must do his head in, because like he is like the super honest one, that who will call that stuff. And I'm the opposite of Jim Ross in how I like. People say, well, Jim Ross is honest. See, but at the same time, like, you work for a company and you're trying to get that product over.
If you never acknowledge the mistake, sometimes they're not going to realize there's been a mistake.
Yeah, but you can do it in a way that isn't, oh, look how crap we are. Look at the state of that. There's a way that you can do it. Like, and in terms of like when you're doing commentary for shows, if it's something you like, if it's a style that you don't buy, that's fine. But you're doing a job for a company. Nobody ever did a Diet Coke advert and went, drink Diet Coke. It's not great for you. And after a while, it does rot your teeth. You should drink it in moderation. But no, you don't. You don't. And Jim Ross should never do a Diet Coke ad. That's what I'm saying.
I feel like the big distinction here between Matthew and Jim Ross is that Matthew is like a man of the people, Robin Hood type figure who feels like everyone needs to know the truth of what's just happened. Yeah. And Matthew is very much a man of the people, honest to a fault. Whereas Jim Ross, I think, has a touch of the old Cornettes about him, where he just this modern garbage. He can't sit silently by while someone does a big old dive onto their partners and their friends and foes, as Brandon Cutler quoted him.
Also, Matthew is much better at playing Dynamite Heady for the Sega Mega Drive than Jim Ross ever will be. This comes from Wrestling News on a similar note to that. They say, we reached out to a couple of wrestlers in AEW, and the feeling is that JR makes a lot of good points, but some wrestlers are less likely to listen to him when he is ripping on their work in public. One wrestler gave us the statement on Ross's comments, saying, quote, "Look, I know there is a lot that JR can teach us, but burying us on the show or on his podcast is only going to make some of us ignore what he says. I grew up watching JR, and he is the best, and we love it that he calls our matches, but maybe find a different way to criticize the wrestlers in the ring. Yes, this. Absolutely this. Absolutely this.
Yeah. You've got to be constructive. People might listen to you a bit more, Jim.
Just saying, Jim. like, what are we? Yeah, just, hey, Jim, Hall of Famer commentator. Here is what we think you should be doing.
I have personally experienced this because I was once speared by Primate at a wrestling event where Jim Ross was commentating, and then Jim Ross could barely hide his disdain on commentary when they fed him the line, "This YouTuber needs a new hat," and I was like, because my hat had fallen off, and he speared me.
I always remember when he announced. I remember watching WCPW when you were in the ring and he announced you and he went, "Check the job." like somebody has just force fed him manure. Check the job.
Yeah, we didn't really hang out backstage. Me and
Did
Jim.
You not?
No.
That is a surprise. And finally, this is an interesting little story that comes from the Wrestling Observer. So Leon Ruff had himself 25 days, a rather extended cup of coffee, a venti with the NXT North American Championship. And a lot of people were curious as to why we had that random title change in the middle of a feud between Gargano and Priest. We have an idea now, don't we, Jack?
Yes. Basically, I think a reason a lot of people started to question this was after War Games because Gargano just won it back. So why on earth did it happen? Well, according to Meltzer, someone in creative thought it would be funny if Leon Ruff won the belt from Gargano. So there we go.
Wouldn't it be funny if he won the belt? He's so thin and he can't wear it. Yeah.
But then, I mean, a lot of things would be funny in wrestling. But sometimes they don't happen because they wouldn't work. I don't think this one was too bad, actually. Even if it did come from the seed of someone just thinking it'd be a laugh. Because they've introduced a face that many were unfamiliar with. And now he's got a little hook. He's got his claws in. And now he can build on that. And he's already had a championship reign. I think that it did well introducing a new character into the mix and elevating him. While not really, I don't think it damaged Gargano that much, did it?
No, it didn't damage him in the slightest.
No, the
slightest. And it adds a little wrinkle to the character of Gargano, the idea that he's a 2-time North American champion, but he's never defended the title.
He's now a 3. He's now a 3-time.
Oh, he's a 3-time.
I apologize.
He's now a 3-time. He's a 3-time champion, but he's never defended the title.
Right.
He's never had a successful defense. If memory serves. And I guess that's the whole idea, that the next time he puts it on the line, there's going to be some trepidation because every time I've defended this, I've lost it immediately after. So it adds to that as well. I hope that it wasn't merely born out of somebody in creative thought it was funny and we've just sort of added story where there was none. Because I think there's been a lot of positives that have come from it. I think Leon Ruff has gained. I think that the Gargano Priest feud has been a little bit different. There's been there's a new flavour to it.
Yep.
And I think there's been lots of good that comes from it.
I think so as well.
How do we feel about Gargano's new bunch of lads, The Way?
Are
you waiting for the Mandalorian and Ugandan Knuckles to join?
Yes. Well, there was all a lot of how do I say? There was a lot of deliberately cringy humour, wasn't there, in their promo where they it wasn't for me yet, but I'll give it a chance because I feel like Gargano's earned that from me. I'm a big fan of his, so I'll see what he can do with it. Him and Candice, I'm a big fan of them both, so we'll see if they can make this work. But I'm not too enthused at the beginning.
Sometimes you need to give people a little bit of time to grow, and they can become a thing of their own. On an unrelated note, tonight, editor Andrew on twitch.tv/Cultaholic. He'll be moisturising his head and playing some classic PlayStation games. And I hope you'll join him for that one. Jack and Owen, you're on a Wednesday, aren't you, on the Twitch
Absolutely.
channel?
Doing Football Manager.
Oh, he's Barcelona, is it?
No, Atletico Madrid.
Atletico Madrid. I knew you were in that league.
We're in Spain currently, yes.
We'll have a lovely time in Spain. And join Andrew tonight at twitch.tv/Cultaholic. He might even moisturise his head just for you. Have a great day. Love you, bye.